And hello, good people of the internet. This is your boy, Tommy Kelly, and this is, of course, the Tommy Kelly podcast. And in this episode, what I'm going to do is one of those question and answer type things that I haven't done in a while, just because I didn't have enough questions. People weren't asking me questions. But I put out the call for questions today, not just on Patreon, but also in the 40 Servants Facebook group, and I got a number of questions, which are all very good, and I will look forward to answering them. But first of all, we need to do the weather update, the weather report. We're still in a drought. We had the warmest day on record again. The bonus thing of it is I don't have to cut the grass still because, the grass is dead, effectively. And still enjoying the heat. In some ways, we were myself and Enda, who's my friend, my photography friend that you would have seen in the vlog and I mentioned on the blog and stuff like that a couple of times. I had to build a wigwam. A wooden wigwam for Vanessa's preschool. Yes, we actually had to build a tree house as well, and we never got around to it because the wigwam took so long. We were expecting it to be 20 minutes or so to do it, and it took for 4 hours. Such is the way. But it was really warm doing that, and it was like extra sweaty and all that kind of thing. And it was one of those kind of cloudy days, so you won't even get the benefit of all the sun and all that kind of thing. But it was grand, it was good. Since the last time I was talking to you, I have rejoined the RuneSoup Premium, and I did the Saints course. I went through the Saints course, which was the course that I would have bailed out of before when I left RuneSoup Premium initially. And I really enjoyed it, I have to say, thoroughly enjoyed it. Gordon is really good at collating all the knowledge together and all the facts and all the things. Like, he does have his own spin on it, obviously, and that's what you pay him for. Really well put together course. Very practical, lots of practice in it, lots of ideas, lots. You could approach it in a strictly, I don't know what to say, like a traditional type way, like say in a Catholic sort of sense. But he also has a jailbroken, for Protestant sense or for non-Christian thing all together, and kind of has it going back that the saints and all that were like, it's a death cult that's kind of separate from Christianity. So if you have a kind of an aversion to saints because of Christianity and your background or your history, or just because Christianity is like not the nicest thing in the world in many ways, then it's still worth checking out because you'll probably find a lot of it, and you could definitely jailbreak it further yourself into a more personal UPG type experience of in a chaos magic sense. So, yes, without any further ado, I think that's you all up to date on my little things. One more thing. People are always asking me, people from Brazil are always asking me, is there ever going to be a Portuguese version of the Grimoire and stuff like that? And I just want to say that I got a lovely email this morning, and it looks like there will be some movement going ahead with that. But I'll say no more because all the details have yet to come in, and things need to be signed, I's need to be dotted, T's need to be crossed, Tommy needs to see things. But that's very exciting though. If that comes off, that would be great. So on to the questions and answers. These are not done in any particular order. Some of them are done from when people ask me them, some of them are grabbed from Patreon. I will pronounce your names wrong, that's just how it goes. And on. So the first question is from Ethan Baker. He says, this one is super basic and less interesting, but what's the best servant or group of servants to use for helping to build a business? Now, the question it depends, because it depends on what's your business, but you're not going to go wrong with, say it's a new business, then you have the gatekeeper, which would be great for getting you into, say, your premises or getting you into places that you felt locked out of, like new contacts or that kind of thing. The road opener would be excellent for your general road opening and good luck and good fortune, as would the fortunate. If you was involved some sort of skill, say you wanted to open a coffee shop and you had no idea how to use, any of the utensils or the actual coffee machines or bookkeeping or any of these things, you could hang out with the guru who will teach you practicality of these things, of how to actually do things in practice. He would be a good one to hang out in general with for any kind of business things if you're on the learning things and want to know how to actually do things. Like I remember years ago, there was friends of mine who opened a bar and neither of them had ever, actually pulled a pint in their lives. So they had to go and learn that. So that would be a good kind of area of the, for the guru and stuff like that. The sun also, adding potency to the mix. You can't grunk that. Witch is the catch-all. I'll do, anything you want. So, I mean, There's so many of them there, and I'm sure I'm missing out obvious ones as well. But if I was starting a business, what would be the best? Depending on what I'm starting, am I starting to write today with a completely new idea, or am I starting, to improve something I already had? The fortunate, you're just not going to go wrong with that. Lotus Coupo has a few questions, so we'll go through them. Number one, I'm curious how you got into the cult and what your path has looked like from the start till now. Have you studied other paths too? My guess is you know something about Buddhism as well. Well, I have talked about this in a number of places, so I'll go through it fairly quick. I first got into the whole idea of the occult and esoterica and New Age when I was very early teenage. And I got hold of some books by Stuart Wilde, who was a kind of a New Age guru-y type person who I loved and still love to these days, even though he's mental. His early stuff's really funny, really irreverent, and very practical, and is all the cool stuff you want to know about, and get you excited about it. It's his whole motto was about, it's all good having all this theory. What can we do in practice with it? So he's kind of literally like the guru of the 47s. I also got into theosophy at that time and spent a long time with that and Alice Bailey. Found that very dry and very depressing, to be honest, in that whole thing that you as a person don't really matter. And the focus, particularly in Alice Bailey, about the group work, and it's a group thing that's, is the major thing, which is fine. But when you're a teenager and you're trying to, make your own mark in the world and become an independent person, be told that you as a person is very irrelevant, it's not what you want to hear. And even as a 40-year-old, I don't think it's a particularly nice message either. Maybe true, not for me. Then I got into things like Buddhism, through that, and I read Alan Watts for the first time when I was about 16, 17, 18, sometime around there. My memory's hazy and all these things. Christmas Humphreys. I read Autobiography of a Yogi at that point. Maybe that's a couple of years later. No, it would be around 17, 18, 19, yeah, something like that. Late teenage years. So I always had these kind of interests in it. A lot of the books I would have read around that time was theosophy. So you had like C.W. Ledbetter, you had Alcott, you had some Gurdjieff stuff, Gurdjieff. Who else would I have been reading around then? Just basically whatever books that would come into the spiritual section of the bookshop in town, and he man, obviously it was a bit into theosophy, so there's a lot, but he was, got Madame Blavatsky's Baboon, which is a book that completely debunks kind of Madame Blavatsky. That's what reading to. That was around that time. Then I kind of went off, not kind of off, but it wasn't so forefront of my mind because I was big into the music at that point, and my concentration was music and being a guitar player and trying to be a rock star and all those kind of things you want to do when you're in your 20s. And when all that fell apart, well, kind of, yeah, and a lot of things fell apart. I would start getting back more into actual math. Oh, I have to go back. I got into Crowley as well in secondary school, high school or whatever we call it, secondary school. And a friend of mine who I actually replaced in the band I ended up being in introduced me to Crowley because he had found him from the Led Zeppelin kind of path or whatever. So I kind of liked Crowley. I thought he was a bit too dangerous, probably. I probably did think he was dangerous at that point and a bit too hard to deal with. But I did become aware of, so I was aware of Crowley at that point. So I knew what magic was with a K. I had read Magic Without Tears. I don't think I read Book 4 at that point. Perhaps Book 4 Part 1 I would have, but not the actual practical praxis stuff of the later Book 4. So that kind of went around for a while, just kind of in new agey type stuff, I suppose, thoughts in my head. I got into Wicca a bit when I was in my kind of mid to late 20s because I went to college to study holistic health studies, and there was a witch there, a Wiccan there, and I was getting into Reiki at that point, aromatherapy, reflexology, so trained in all those things, qualified, never used it because I only was doing it for my own interest. Anyway, got into a bit of Wicca, didn't really go with me because I'm not really into the whole... I don't know, the naturalistic thing. I'm not a lover of nature in that kind of way. Like, I mean, of course, I love nature. Everyone loves nature, but I don't feel a closeness or a bond in that way that you would to the cycle of the year and all that you do in Wicca. And it kind of seemed a bit to me, a bit fluffy or whatever. So, probably read a lot of Crowley at that point, and then I give it all up because I just needed a break from all of it. And the thing that got me back into actual thinking of spiritually again would be The Secret, The Law of Attraction, and get into Abraham Hicks. And then after that, I saw that Grant Morrison The Sinful lecture, and that got me on the whole chaos magic bus. And found Gordon White fairly quick after that, Peter Carroll, all these things. So that's kind of a very, not brief, but fairly brief history of Tommy Kelly. I have talked about it loads, so sorry for people who've heard that all that spiel before. You can come back now and pay attention again. Question 2 from Lotus Cooper. How did the idea for the 47s come about? This is an interesting one. Again, one I've answered a few times, but so I won't spend too long. But there is an interesting thing in it. When I did the Saints course recently with the RuneScape thing that I talked about at the beginning, it kind of brought back memories of me when I was doing the 47s at the beginning. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do the 47s was, number one, I did it for me totally. It's very selfish. It was a magical tool for me to use, so I wasn't thinking of it being used in the way it is now at all. But it was that you've all of these kind of systems and all of these different ideas and different characters and different people or different gods, spirits, demons, whatever it is, and they all kind of are bound within their own system. There's a certain way that you have to introduce yourself to them, work with them, and all of these things. And I didn't enjoy all of that. I just come out of doing a lot of work with grimoires and stuff, and not actually doing any work with it, but learning about it and stuff. And I didn't really like that kind of approach, whatever. So I thought, what can I do that would make all of these things available to me, but in an aesthetic and a way that I enjoy over, if because like say you don't want to work with the saints, but you like the idea of that kind of interaction, that relationship. So it goes, what can I do that would make that easier, more accessible, and doesn't have all the baggage, which is like what chaos magic is meant to be about: taking all the stuff, getting rid of all the needless stuff that goes with it. And so I also like the idea of the runes, which had, the divination and the magic kind of thing going on. So it had that dualistic type of approach to it as well, which I thought was really cool and really, really helpful. So that's kind of the approach I was coming for with the 47s. I was using something that had both divinationary and magic things like the runes, but also could use all of these energies, power, saints, demons, spirits, without having to go through the system necessarily that they are from. So you can approach something like the gatekeeper without having to be involved with all of the voodoo paraphernalia of Papa Legba, whatever. But again, the gatekeeper is not Papa Legba either. It's something different. What are your next projects in the works? This is number 3 from Lotus Cooper. Are you still making comics? My next project in the work is the like very soon is I'll be putting together the pocket version of the Grimoire, the cheap one, and I'm doing the travel size deck. That's where I'm at with the 47s. I have ideas for a new kind of, I don't say this is long term. This won't be for ideas for other decks and stuff like that, but nothing concrete. There's one that I kind of like the idea of doing, but again, I don't know. When I have something to say about those things, it'll be on Patreon anyway, because that's the whole point of it, to get in behind the process, the art process behind all of those things. So yeah, I have a few ideas. There's a lot of things I want to do. It's just getting the time, and we're having a baby in a couple of weeks, so I assume I'll have less time. But who knows? If I organize it well, I should be all good. Are you still making comics? I am not, but was talking to a guy who I knew about in the comic scene here in Ireland over the weekend, and he's saying, if you ever thought about coming back into comics, give him a shout, because he's publishing type editorial dude now at this point. And it's kind of I've said all I have to say in regard to comics, and it's the amount of effort that you have to put in to do comics compared to the reward you get back is it's not worth it for me. Although recently I have got the itch to actually do some comics, so who knows? Never say never with all of these things. But am I currently making comics? I am not. 4. I'm curious to know if your wife is also into the cult, or is it your thing only? If you don't like to bring family into discussion, though, it's perfectly understandable. So far, none of my partners have ever shared my beliefs, really, and I have wondered at times if that really matters or not in relationships. If you, by any stretch of means, think I'm good at magic, my wife is much better at magic, and she's not really that into it. She's just naturally really good at it. She gets everything she wants and wishes for, always. And she's really good. Probably because she just does it, and she doesn't overthink it. She doesn't put too much in it. She just has that natural ability to go there. There it is. So like, I don't be telling her story either, but we did a vision board once a while back, about years ago, before she'd opened a preschool, or even had started being really training to be a preschool teacher. and she had this vision of the preschool or whatever, and a photo up on the vision board. And when she actually got the first job in the preschool, the floor and the photo that she had on her vision board was nearly exactly the preschool that she ended up going in, and she kind of has all of that kind of stuff going on for her. But overall, she's interest only in me talking about it or whatever. She used the 47s a good bit herself, but wouldn't read Crowley. Only know who Gordon White is because of me blabbing on about it, or Alan Chapman, or Jason Miller, or any of these people. She certainly wouldn't know anything about Peter Carroll, Ramsey Jukes, or any of that stuff. So she'd know how to do it naturally. Wouldn't be into the whole book thing. That's not. She's just she reads an awful lot. She finds all that quite boring. Just do it. So yeah, great at magic. Beth Wells. What are the biggest challenges or caveats when working with them, which I assume is the 47s? The biggest thing is trying to, if people you find people coming into this into the 47s, sometimes it's not as bad as I thought it might get, where they're looking for a quick fix or something, and you can tell that this is probably not the first time they've jumped ship, if you want, or jumped into something. Like, they'll try, I need my rent done, bad example, so I'm getting into voodoo. Oh, spent 3 days with voodoo, didn't work. Hoodoo for another, that's still not working. 47, 3 days, when is this going to work? Understand, vision board for 4 days, like the kind of jump through it a bit like that. And all of these things take a while to ground yourself in. My magic did not work properly for a long while. Like, it did for a long while and then stopped, and all of that was to do with me and my shadow work and all those things. So I had a lot of stuff to work out before things started to flow in that kind of new agey chi energy type way. So I suppose the caveat of what working with the 47s is that whole thing of wherever you go, there you are. There will be an awful lot. You are bringing an awful lot to all of your magic. And that's the biggest, as far as I'm concerned, that's the biggest influence and challenge to magic is yourself. So work on yourself. Hope that answers that bit. Ray Wolf, how has creating the sermons impacted your life in a spiritual sense? It's made it much harder in many, many ways, and made it much, much easier in many, many ways. It's harder in, there's an awful lot more responsibility and a lot more, I suppose, responsibility. You just get, especially when more people are involved, that you don't want to have that kind of thing of where I don't want people to put too much hope and thing into it, and think that and do something terrible with it. Like, that whole idea of, well, I tried to use 47s to cure my cancer, and I didn't go to the doctor and I died. No, I don't know how they're talking to me. Maybe they're haunting me. And just, I feel somewhat responsible for what people then do, even though I'm not. Everyone, has to do their own thing, whatever. But there is that responsibility, and to try and keep all of the ideas of the 47s and all that in a perspective and on a focus on that it's to do with you, and you have to work out your own stuff and all that. So that is a spiritual type thing that I feel thing, and not greatly in that it's holding me down, but something that did when I was originally putting together the 40 Shadows, which turned into the journey. I felt the weight of other people's opinions an awful lot on me and affecting me. So it's something that I work with and have a challenge with all the time, is other people's voices, as I spoke about last week in the podcast. But yeah, great. As I say, I was trying to do something that would make all of the things easier. I suppose there's the one thing that I suppose is a big block with me is that I find it hard now to work with other systems, and not only because I feel guilty in a sense that, oh, well, I should be using the 47s for this. This is what it's for. So there's kind of a guilt thing, and the 47s do not care whatsoever if I use other systems or other deities or any of these things, but it's something I have in my mind, which is an interesting one. But mostly good. ChaosTarot.com. I really liked your idea of drawing a demon to represent your problems and annoyances that seem to always pop up. How do you reconcile that your work relating to avoiding a victim mentality? How do you reconcile that with your work? Is there a line you won't cross, or a rule you follow in practice to keep one from feeding into the other? So basically what that is about is I was getting an awful lot of this kind of opposing energy, or like a trickster energy, in a sense that things were it felt like things were being made much harder for me. Like that, if I went to pick up a glass, it would spill. If I got picked up an egg, it would crack. Everything just seemed to go wrong. The computer would break when I went to record. Stuff would fall. If you put something on a shelf, it would immediately fall down. All of these really annoying, but small little things that were building up to being really annoying. So obviously it was, my focus or just a thing. But so what I thought I'd do was personify that or personalize that in a servitor, so that when those type of things happened, I could banish that as an idea, as almost personify this kind of thing. So that's what the question is. So then you're asking, how do I balance that with knowing that the victim mentality thing of seeing yourself as being punished. And yeah, it's two different things. Like, you have to be aware of your victim mentality if that is the shadow game you're playing. That's one of my major ones. So by doing that and kind of externalizing these type of things, you are putting yourself in the kind of situation of being a victim. So you have to be very cognizant of that and be aware of it. So it's just a balance. The answer to the question is just try to balance and try as much as possible. It was more of a case of doing that so that I could function, rather than trying to get rid of these things or get past it or to make a long time. It was like, kind of, if I need to record a podcast and that kind of energy is around me and stuff that feels like I'm being tormented, or, like they've just been prodded by a demon, that I give a very quick kind of personification of that energy that I can banish. Or that whole thing of, like the Buddha under the tree, and Mara comes along and is trying to tempt the Buddha or whatever, and the whole point is, I can see you, Mara. And that takes the energy out of the demon or whatever. Him by just, he grounds himself, putting his hand on the ground and says, I see you, Mara. I'm acknowledging you. I know you're there. So that was more the idea of personifying that experience. So I think you could do that with many things and still have to be aware of your own victim playing. Again, if that's the game you play, which is one of the games I play. Michael Ferrix. I'm pronouncing that definitely wrong. Ferrix. Help me out, Michael. Mikal, probably, as well, because there's no E. Totally butchered your name. Do you see any potential of further development of the 40 servant system? And what development do you perceive? Yes and no. I don't think there'll be 20 more servants or things like that. Like, I don't think there's going to be a booster pack or any add-ons or anything like that. What I can see is like stuff like that. When I talked about the offerings there recently, that having come from what I learned in the RuneScape course, but turning the images upside down is the thing that people do with the saints to put a bit of pressure on them to get your wishes granted, or whatever it is you want to approach it. So I can see things like how people use them definitely will develop, but I don't think there will be. I can't imagine there will be. There's not going to be new artwork for them. There's not going to be new. Like, the guru is not suddenly going to become a different type of character or anything like that. I think like all of that will come, but we'll probably get further utility out of them, and things that we haven't thought about as yet will become more. It's like the unifying sigil. There's definitely something to that I still don't know what that's for, other than I know it's for unifying and for group work, but there's something else. And I said that at the time when I put it up originally in the Facebook group, and I'm still not sure, but there's definitely something there that I'm not seeing. So yeah, they'll develop. Their use will develop. What might be the dangerous part of using this system? Like, if you're a novice, first-time user, not educated, and feel it's the same as what I was saying to bet, in that you're bringing as much as you're bringing yourself to these things, and that's a big factor. And try not to rush it as well. I suppose, like this demand. Oh, I need this done. How long is it going to take? All that kind of can be very hard to get out of, because until you get to the point of having seen magic work, there is a kind of desperation to trying to get it work. And most people come to the magic because something desperate's going on. No one comes to magic because they feel good and their life is great. So there is all that kind of desperation of things. So, Michael John. Do you think you have opened the door for other creators to make decks, books, websites, etc. for use of their servitors? In 10 years, will the use of other magician servitors be mainstream, at least with the magical community? I don't think I've opened any doors to anything like it. That's not particularly anything unique. People have been making their own oracle decks and all of that stuff for, as long as these things have been made. I probably in any way could point people to how I did it technically in, using Gamecraft or getting your stuff up on Amazon, or people can see, well, if he can do it, I can probably do it. So that way, do I think in 10 years, Magic Servitors will be mainstream? No, I don't at all. Mainstream in the magical community? No, because it's like it's a niche of a niche of a niche of a niche of a niche. So like Servitors only exist within Chaos Magic. Chaos Magic's, while it's possibly the most popular brand of Magic now, I'm not sure it will be in 10 years. No, I don't think Servitors will be the thing. I don't know what will be the thing, and maybe I'll be wrong, but that's my hunch answering that question today. Mr. Madulid, or admin extraordinaire, is divination a common practice in Ireland? It is not at all. I've never met anyone who ever did it. I've never met anyone who ever talked about it. Like, people would be aware of what is. Is Ogham. People sometimes pronounce Ogham, but it's pronounced Om. What it's usually used for is for tattoos and stuff like that. People get their kids' names and Om on their arms, or strength, or some sort of motto or something that they want. But divination, absolutely not. Even the druids I hung around with for a while, they use tarot cards for divination. So no is the answer. Felipe Dane, again butchering that name, Daen, Dane. Is it just a noise? Sorry about that. Tell us a bit about your other artistic works. Well, other than the comics, I've done a number of comics, which my favourite one would be Them. The Holy Numbers is the award-winning one that won awards. And Road Crew I did for a long while, which was like a daily web comic that turned into From Rags to Rock Stars, and that For Sale, which is, again, I really like that one. I did The Great Work. Something Wonderful, which was a horrible, nasty little comic, really sarcastic and bitter and angry and irreverent. But was by far probably, at that point, was the most successful comic I did. It did well on Reddit and places like that where, the nasty people live. Other stuff, well, there's all my photography, obviously, that I've been doing. That's a year now. I've been doing that. I've done the cover of, say, Gordon White's book, Pieces of 8. I've done all the artwork for Alan Chapman's website, Wiser by Design. I've done a load more artwork for him in the last week or so that he'll be putting up. I've done stuff for Jason Louv. I've done the Jack Parsons memes for him. What else have I done magic-wise, art-wise? I've done loads of memes in general. I've done plenty of covers of books. I've done album covers, CD covers, all of that kind of things. But yeah, hope that's what you meant. How was your first approach to magic? How did it first appear in your life? Well, when I come back to that first question I did earlier on with Lotus, how was your first approach to magic? Was actual when I started calling it magic. Initially ceremonial, didn't like it. Really fell in sigils and stuff like that. Really clicked with me. So yeah, but the very first magic I would have done would be the Stuart Wilde's Turbo Thought stuff, where you try to put people's thoughts into people's minds, or get people to turn around and look at you. All of those etheric energy exercises. I got quite good at them, and some of them I couldn't do at all. Hugh Hackett. Do you think magic needs a Myers-Briggs type inventory to point a person to areas of magic they need? There was a good thing came up before. Now that just as I read that, this is a lot longer question, but just what I said, there was someone like kind of, I don't know who I was talking to, but it was a long while ago, a couple of years ago, and we were talking about that. Like, you could be, trying to be a chaos magic, and the whole time that you're, actually a grimoire guy, and it's like if it was a role playing game, what is your actual magic ability? Are you an elf, a night elf with chaos magic, or are you whatever the different RPG ones that I can't think of right now? The question is, do you think magic needs? It probably needs it. Like, all needs some sort of categorization, so you know how you would work it out. I have no idea. Like, are you a natural, spirit energy guy, or like you could be working all your life trying to, as an energetic magic practitioner, and you're really information model. That's like, it's hard to know. Right, so here we go. Hugh's premise is magic fills a need for many people, but magic now encompasses a lot of areas. Uh, a lot of areas. How do you get to what you really need? Yeah, so this is pointing at it. Yeah. Only last year did I start, but it was very random, and I essentially followed a trail of breadcrumbs left by algorithms. YouTube offering suggested videos next to the videos you were watching. Yeah, and I very much did that as well after no, not necessarily algorithms. The first thing I did after watching the Grant Morrison The Sinful lecture all those years ago was start just finding out all the people he mentioned, like Robert Anton Wilson and whatever. He talks about a number of people. And then the whole sigil thing got me straight to Rune Soup. So I understand the kind of, trail of breadcrumbs. This thing would be a short questionnaire that you could give to someone that knows very little about what currently called magic, and at the end would point them towards certain areas to start at. Yep, love it, think it's great. Again, I had no idea. Well, I suppose you could easily ask, question one, do you think magic works by an energetic model, an information model, a spirit model of something like that? You could ask questions to see what type of they think of, and then go, well, at the end of your 20 questions, it would be like, you seem to really like the spirit module, so you should, hang out with the saints or the grimoires or, buy the Simon Nomicon or something like that. So, yeah. Another example, I have a very detailed orient job. When I first started moving into magic, I bumped into a lot of stuff about Kabbalah, as we all do, which I absolutely do not want to read and memorize, etc. I know that feels. I spent a long time hanging out with the Kabbalah, and I just went, it's I couldn't work out a practicality for it at all. And I know there is one, but it's not actual practicality that I could see. Your mileage may vary. It's because, as Hugh says, it just seems like a job to me. Yeah, it seems like endless extra work. It's like when I was working on a computer game years ago, and we had to use GitHub, and there's all this kind of extra things that you have to do to upload your stuff and all. You have to type in stuff rather than. It just seemed like superfluous work for the sake of work, and that's what the Kabbalah feels like to me. For just can I not just do this? No, because you have to do these 7 other steps. It's like uploading to GitHub. Can I not just put it in Dropbox? No, you have to send, receive, do all these things. No, I'm just going to do it Dropbox and not use your system. As Hugh says, others may love and need that intellectual rigor. So yeah, absolutely, yeah, I think that's a great idea. I don't think it's something I would be able to put together, just practicality, or I wouldn't really have the ability to know the questioning of what you would do other than something very simple of you've answered more, 5 of these questions, which in an energetic model sense, and only 3 of them in a spirit module sense, or, you seem to really like maths. So yeah, I love the idea. I think it would be very helpful, but with the caveat that could easily then pigeonhole people. And, because the first things you get into in magic are probably not where you're going to end up. So if I'm number 4 on the Hugh Hackett magic system, or type, and then stick with that forever, when it does turn out that after a year they probably should have moved on to something else or their interest. To get stuck in the Kabbalah because that's what the Hugh Hackett personality test told them to be, and they hate it, but they think that's what they should be. But and that's not to be discounted because people do that very much with all these type of things, kind of barricade themselves in something that feels like like in a uniform or in a team or whatever. So that's all the questions that worked out good timing or whatever. Thank you very much for your questions. Thank you very much for your patience on me destroying your wonderful names. And I hope my answers were in some way answering the questions you asked or give you some sort of clarity on areas. So yeah. And that was another episode. I enjoyed that. I would like to do more of those Q&A ones because it means I have to do absolutely no preparation whatsoever other than collect questions and print them out. And so that is easy for me, but it's hard to get them because, people just don't have questions. Like when you ask me, have you a question that you want me to answer? Turns out people don't have them. So doing them once a month is probably not that good, but I'll try and do them as often as I can. If you have any suggestions on what you'd like me to talk about on the podcast, please do send me any it doesn't have to be a question, but like a theme or a subject or some area, you know, oh, why not talk about sigils? Or, you know, can you talk about, I don't know, magic cooking? Why did that come into my head? That's interesting. So yeah, if you want to know more about me, then you can go to adventuresinwoowoo.com, and there's a whole about page there that will tell you something about me. I updated it briefly recently, but it does need an overhaul, as does a lot of the thing. The magic primer section on Adventures in Woowoo will tell you all about magic and link you to all good places that you could possibly want to be linked to. If you're new to it and it's something that you're just getting interested in, well, it's a very good starting point. I am working on a journeying one and an offering one that should be happening soon. It's just putting all this stuff together, and it's just getting time. Every time I try to get something together, something else has to happen, and that, it's in a good way, but I will get to all these things. The podcast can be got at TommyKellyPodcast.com, or it's on adventuresinwoowoo.com as well. Links to the 47 stuff, where you can find out everything you could possibly want to know about the 47s, even including how to use them for absolutely free. All the card meanings. Excuse me, it wouldn't be a podcast without me riffing in some way. All the card meanings, all the sigils, all that stuff's all there, as well as links to the YouTube channel, which has the 47s video course, Brain Engage. And I'm getting through that. We're about halfway through the cards, and then I'm going to do kind of some practical praxis stuff at the end. And I'm looking forward to that being finished, because I've been doing it for quite a while. And I'm looking forward to doing other stuff, other videos as well. So I'm again, time permitting, going to try and get some more videos other than just the 47s and the podcast up there. I am on all the social medias. I'm usually at Tommy Kelly, which is again TOMMIE. If you go to TommyKelly.com, you can help me out by subscribing to my Patreon. And if you subscribe to my Patreon, you get access to the entire The Journey thing, which is a year-long meditative shadow working using servitors that we're doing. We're in month 7 now. So we're more than halfway through, but you can start it at any time. People are finding that very helpful. I'm finding it extremely helpful. It's quite hard, be warned. It's not easy, and it definitely does require you to have some consistency and some will and some drive of your own. And yeah, Tommy Kelly Artist on Facebook. There's 47 Facebook group. There is all of these things. Just go to adventuresinwoowoo.com and you'll find me. So, good people of the internet, I hope life is good for you, genuinely, and I really appreciate all of you, these people who listen every week. And I know there's a good few of you now at this point, and always makes me feel good when I go to my SoundCloud or my YouTube or whatever, and I see the stats, particularly in SoundCloud, and then, you know, in the other places. I don't do it that often, because you could get into the habit of something equivalent to Googling yourself every day, which is not good ever. But I do appreciate it, and I really appreciate the Patreon people, and the people in the 47's Facebook group, a wonderful group. It's, without just saying it, it's definitely my favourite magic group of people I've come across ever. Everyone gets on so well, and that group fairly runs itself. And I must touch wood, because I have a habit of saying things and then everything goes to shit really quickly. So I will touch the MDMF wood of my IKEA table. So, good people of the internet, may you have a wonderful week. May everything just work out for you. May all your things that have been blocked, may they be unblocked, and may it flow. And may something special happen to you all this week. Keep an eye out for it as I send that wish towards you. So, good people of the internet, be well.